Ahoj, já jsem Babeta z HospitaLidi a vítám vás u dalšího HospitaLidi talku. And today it's gonna be in English because I am sitting here with Monika Hilm. Monika is the regional lead for Czech Republic and Slovakia for Vienna House. You are also author of a really cool book, Put Your Employees, Put Your People First. And you're also one of the people that organized the first conference in Czech about happiness at work. So I'm really pleased you're here. Welcome.
Thank you. Dobrý den. It's very, very nice to be here.
And I think my first question for someone that has never come across this concept about happiness at work. So I think the first question should be what it is actually. What does it mean? And what's the difference between job satisfaction and happiness at work?
Right. So happiness at work is about a feeling. Feeling that you have inside when you're thinking about your workplace. Which leads very nicely into what you were saying about satisfaction. Because job satisfaction is what you think about work. So what do you think about your salary? Is it good or bad comparing to others? Is the perks that you have, is the benefits you have good? Whereas happiness at work is how you feel. How do you feel Monday morning after a great weekend and you have to go to work? How do you feel? Do you feel good? Do you feel a little bit... I don't really want to go there. So that feeling that you have will tell you how happy you are in your workplace.
And why is it important to be, I know this sounds like a weird question, but why is it important to be happy at work?
I think there is only one happiness. So that's the happiness in life. And I think one of the purposes for all of us is to be happy. I think everything else becomes irrelevant if we are not happy. There is an old expression that we'd rather cry in a limousine than in a Volkswagen bus. I'm not so sure that's true, but I think crying is what we want to avoid. So I think being happy in general is what we're looking for, and knowing that our workplace is where we spend most of our time, except from sleeping, why should we avoid that part? So I think it's not a matter of if we want to be happy at work, it's a matter of we want to be happy in our entire life, which means we also need to naturally be happy at work.
And how do I know if I work in a happy workplace?
How do you know? Well, first of all, it comes down to yourself. Are you happy? But normally we say happiness at work is about two things. It's about relationships that we have at work. So do you like your colleagues that you're working with and the people that are there around you? And the other one is results. Now, when I say results, I don't mean necessarily the bottom line P&L for business owners like yourself. I mean results in the sense of having an achievement with what I do. Is people recognizing the results that I'm producing? Or am I sitting there all day working and nobody knows what I'm doing, and it's almost like there's no point if I'm here or not? So if you don't have the right relationships and you don't have the results coming, then most likely you are not very happy at work. But if you have great relationships and you can see that what you are doing at work is making a difference, whether it's to your colleagues, to your clients, or to other people, then you have a happier work environment.
Because I think a lot of people associate with happiness at work all of these, especially now in Prague with the unemployment being so low, and every company is putting on free breakfast, free food, and I don't know what else free. So I think lots of people associate that this is how you create a happy workplace if you provide all of these free things to your staff. What do you think? Does it work?
I think they are very nice to have these benefits. I mean, personally, I'm from Scandinavia, so I love breakfast. It's the most important meal of the day for me. So you give me free breakfast, I will be happy. But it's not the benefits that will make the difference whether you are happy or not. These things are nice to have. I think the IT companies are really leading the way, showing all the nice things you can do for your people. But it's very clear that free fruit, a gym pass, or all these other benefits that you can count, they are not what makes you happy at work. The problem with them, though, is once you've implemented them, if you take them away, because you're hearing me saying, oh, but that's not what makes people happy, once you take the banana on the reception desk away, they will make people extremely unhappy. So we have to be very careful, and that's why I think it's so important to think about, if you put a benefit in place, you have to be very aware of that you can't just take it away, because that will cause unhappiness. But these things does not make us more happy. It can make us healthier, it can make us feel good, but it's not ultimately what makes us happy.
So how me as an employer, how can I create a happy workplace?
I think if you want to create a good workplace to start with, I think you need to look first at fairness. It's not directly related to happiness as such, but fairness is one of the deepest rooted elements we have, and they can trace back to the monkeys, our forefathers, and everything. If you don't have fairness, people become extremely unhappy. So first you need to look at the elements that balances the day. So that makes people having a good base. Some people say that it's not good to have an unfair boss, somebody who doesn't treat you. But as long as they treat everybody equally as bad, then it's fair badness. That is actually better than a boss that treats somebody bad and somebody really good. So you start with fairness as the foundation. And once you have a base of fairness in the office, whether it comes to pay, doesn't mean you have to pay everybody the same, but you need to, as an owner, be able to justify it and be able to explain to everybody in front of yourself that this is the base. Then you can start looking at things, simple things that doesn't cost money. Meaning, how often do we thank our people? How often do we give appreciation? How often do we listen to our people? How much time and credit do we give them? So this is really the fundamental simple things that I would say, is to say thank you. And an easy way as a boss to remember that is you can do what I do. I have 3 little coins on my desk, and every day I try to turn coins over so that I remember at least 3 times a day I am saying thank you and appreciation to somebody, because a lot of leaders want to do right. They want to create happy workplaces, but they forget because we get so busy with the everyday. So that's just a little trick that can help. Little things that we can do. Celebrate the small successes. I think a lot of companies are very good at celebrating with a big company party once a year, Christmas party or something. The thing is, those big things will not make a major difference. Yeah, it's one night I got drunk with my colleagues, it was fun. But 3 months later, it's not what's going to want to make me stay. And you brought up here in Prague, we have so low unemployment. And you can tell now that more and more companies are pushing and squeezing with salaries. But we can only take that so far because prices in the city are not going up. So this is where I think happiness at work really makes a big difference, because you cannot convince people to stay with you based on money. You have to give good salaries. So don't misunderstand me that you can replace salaries with happiness at work. But then you need to start treating people right. And it starts with treatment of people. It's not about giving them things. It's how we appreciate them. And simple things like have the team member pick their own colleagues. So involve the team members in recruitment. So that not you as the owner are the one deciding who I on the reception desk is going to stand next to 8-12 hours a day, that actually I have a say in who is going to be next to me, because the likelihood that I will have better relationship with this person and they will be more loyal and wanting to be there increases. So those are the things that I would spend my time on rather than things that cost money.
So you personally let your colleagues to pick up their superior, for example?
So this is something that we have tried a few times.
Okay.
What we do is not letting the colleagues pick their superior, but they are part of a steering committee. So if we need to hire a new person, we put together people from various departments that has a relationship to this position. And then these people get to be part of the decision process and interviewing the candidates and selecting who will join.
Cool. And I've just finished reading book, and I'm sure I'm gonna say the name wrong. Alexander Kierulf.
Yep.
Did I say that?
It's pretty decent. Good. It's good pronunciation.
Leading with Happiness, and
Yes.
I really liked what he said there about Pret a Manger, which is the UK chain for some people that may not know. And apparently Pret a Manger says that they don't hire people that can make great sandwiches and teach them to be happy, but they hire happy people to make and teach them make great sandwiches. I'm sure this is something that you probably are on board with as well.
Yes.
So my question is, how do you select, how can you find out during an interview process who is a happy person?
Yeah, who is a happy person? All of us can put a face on for an interview, which is why I believe in group recruitments. So instead of interviewing, you just have a discussion with the person. A very relaxed discussion with no direct questions to the person. And then you see how they interact with the others. And if you do this in a very relaxed environment, the person is less likely to not show themselves. And also, I think most people want to be happy. And I think if you can take a person who was very, very wrong somewhere and you put them somewhere else with the right people around them, and they will be a very happy person. So I think, I'm not sure it's just a matter of finding happy people. It's a matter of giving people the opportunity to be happy.
And you mentioned hospitality and the fairness, which I think, especially in the Czech Republic, is a big topic. And you worked in 10 different countries. So when you arrived to Czech, which is 10 years ago, right? What was your first kind of reaction, understanding? Where does Czech Republic set 10 years ago in compared to all the other countries where you worked in?
That's very difficult. I came to Czech Republic from Denmark, which is considered the happiest country in the world. Fighting a little bit with Norway and Finland on who is really the happiest. But having said that, I think, I don't think the Danish hospitality workers are that much happier than the Czech. I think what I have noticed since I came to Czech Republic is if you do treat the people here in a very nice way and you give them things, you get so much back. They're not spoiled. And they're getting more and more spoiled. But at least 10 years ago when I arrived, the little things you did was appreciated so much, and the return you got was quite large. Whereas if you take in Copenhagen, they were so used to everything that it was much harder to find things to make them happy. You almost had to pull back to bring them back to the basics, and say, this is the fundamental of what we do. I think Czech people, and maybe some people, foreigners here, will disagree with me. I think people here in this country are equally as prone to being happy as any other European country. I think with the history you have, there are certain fundamental challenges that we need to face. But I think respect for that, respect for the history, and treating people in this country similar as in other countries, you will have at least the same result, if not better.
And can you see how it's changed in the 10 years? Because, I've lived 10 years abroad, and I know coming back to Czech Republic, it was a massive eye-opening that everything has changed. So,
I think. If you look at the scene, I think the number of restaurants and hotels that has opened in the last 10 years is quite interesting. The variety of the type of hotels that we have today compared to what we had 10 years ago is pretty cool as well. I think people are more hospitality focused today than maybe 10 years ago. I've also noticed a little bit of improvement in the language. I think Czech Republic have always been good in English, but I think it's getting better all the time. So I see a very positive future hospitality-wise in Prague and Czech Republic.
It's good to hear.
Yes.
Also, I think another big topic in hospitality is, we are giving fantastic customer service. In my eyes, and I think in eyes of many people, fantastic customer service comes with a smile on your face. Right. But all the psychological studies say that actually faking happiness and faking that smile makes you actually more unhappy, and it can make you depressed. Yeah, really? So I know I've just read it over the weekend, so I'm full of information.
Yeah, you have to share this with me because I haven't seen that study. Because I've been reading a lot about fake it until you make it. So if you pro yourself towards positive things and happy things, it actually makes you more happy. And my greatest recommendation to anyone, which probably has the most fundamental research behind it, that I would recommend is 3 good things. Alexander mentioned it in his book, but if you don't mind, I briefly mention it because I think this is so powerful and it's so simple. And it's literally pick a time of the day, every day, and write down 3 good things that happened that day. I do it before I go to bed. I've been doing it for the last 6 years at least. Every day before I go to bed, I write down 3 great things that happen that day. But it doesn't have to be the most advanced things. It can be the sun is shining, my daughter got a good score in school, or somebody brought me a cup of coffee. It can be simple things, but it can also be big things. And if you do this consecutively over time, it actually starts changing your lines in your brain. And because we have plasticity and we know we can impact how our brain thinks, it actually makes us more positive. So based on that science, if you fake a smile every day, it should, with the same logic, make you happier. So I haven't read the study that you're talking about, that it makes you unhappy, because this is what I know, is that if you focus on the positive, you get more of it. If you focus on the negative, you get more of it. I think maybe what the study talks about is the pressure. So on the front desk, when in 2001, I worked in London, and my general manager was Turkish, and he used to go around and bang on the reception desk, smile, you know? And every time he told me smile, I was like this, and I got really freaked out. Now, smiling under those circumstances is quite stressful and not very pleasant. So, of course, it depends on how you're asking the person to smile. I prefer to say, be yourself, share yourself with the customers, and have fun with them. And whatever the situation is, just try to enjoy it. Then I think you become more positive.
And I think everyone will agree that happy people are more motivated people. So why do you think there are still managers, which you call in your book the Tyrannosaurus Rexes?
Yes.
Why do you think that we still have these managers that lead people by shouting at them and creating really stressful environments? And
because
how do we
change it? How do we change it? I don't think they understand. I think a lot of people theoretically agrees with us that this is the right way to go, it's to be kind to people, but a lot of people still have this doubt inside themselves, thinking I will get better results if I just push a bit. If I discipline people and if I scream at them, they will do what I'm saying. So I think we have all the research, but I think there is still a lot of managers out there who in their hearts has not accepted this, and they are still afraid that the results will not be done. It's exactly the same principle as home office. A lot of people think that if I have the person in my office and I can see them, I know they are doing their job, which we all know is completely irrelevant, because if I'm sitting playing Tetris on my computer and you're not standing behind me, how are you supposed to know? So I could as well do that at work as I can do it at home. And I think it's the same principle. If we keep the control, which brings you into micromanagement, which is another dinosaur thing that we know theoretically, it's one of the worst things you can do to people. We hire all these educated people and then we micromanage them. And I think it's this fear of losing control, because we are the managers and we have been treated in a certain way, and we are copycats. We treat our people the way we were treated. So it requires a lot of people like you and me, as leaders out there, to change this, who has had a positive experience, who've come across somebody like Alexander Karolf or yourself, who has shown them something different. This is what is needed in order to change this.
And if we have some manager or someone new in a role, maybe in a team leading role, that kind of are not sure how to, so they like the concept thing, it's really cool, and they need some tips on where to start, where would you recommend for people to start, what to read and what to do?
I mean, I think, of course, you should read my book. My book is very related to hospitality with exact examples.
Which you can buy on your website, right?
Yes.
monikahilm.com.
Yes, you can. But joking apart of my book, I think Alexander's book, Leading with Happiness, is very good. But I would probably recommend people to read the book he wrote before that, which is simpler, less theoretical, which is called Happy Hours 9 to 5. If you're starting off groundbreaking, this is probably one of the books that I would strongly recommend to start, because it's simple and very straightforward. And then think about, how would you like to be treated when somebody comes to your home? How would you like to be treated by your colleagues? And then try to treat everybody you work with like that. And then if you start micromanaging, take a step out from yourself. I love this observing my own emotions, to see, why am I reacting like this? What is it in my history? What is it in me that makes me want to micromanage? And then I realized, oh, it's control. I'm afraid that the job won't be done. And try to take a step out of yourself and look at yourself. This is also very powerful. And this, I think, anybody can do. It just requires a bit of peace and quiet, and actually sit and think a little bit. And if you are daring, do a little survey with your people and ask them, what do I do as a leader for you that is good? What should I continue doing? What should I stop doing? What should I start doing? You can use SurveyMonkey. It's extremely simple. Send it out anonymously to the people that work for you and ask them the questions.
Great tips, thank you. And what if I work in a workplace where I am unhappy and I see that I am managed by the people that are, sometimes even disrespectful and shouting, and what do you think that I can, talking about hospitality, as a receptionist or a housekeeper, what can I do to try to change the environment where I work?
Well, first of all, you leave and come and work in Vienna House, yeah?
Okay.
No, there is 31st of March is Quit Your Crappy Job Day, according to Alexander. He's created this. And I think in Prague, this is what a lot of people do at the moment. But obviously, in a lot of places, this is not the case. You cannot just leave and move on. I think everybody can impact the workplace. Of course, it's easier the higher up in the organization you are. But I think everybody can start by impacting their colleagues, to have a little micro community of happiness in your little group where you go and thank your colleagues, and they will go, wow, maybe they haven't heard that. And you spend more time with your colleagues and you ask them the questions. If you have a leader that is fairly young, they might not be aware. And I think be daring enough to take that conversation with your supervisor can be extremely powerful, as long as you do it respectfully. And try to remember, it's not about you are doing it wrong. It's, I feel when you do that, I feel like this. And just try to calmly explain. I think the supervisor will be extremely grateful. I think we'd be surprised how many people actually would like to be good leaders. They're not aware of that they are treating people in a bad way.
Yeah, I agree. But we're the happy people, so of course I'm gonna agree with you. Okay, great. So do we have any questions? We do. So maybe if you can pass me the question, I can read it. Now meet Clara. So the question is, can you please write down the names of the books you mentioned? Yes, we will write it down. Okay, very good. And I think my last question is, so you work in the corporate life, you worked for Hilton and for some of the big chains, and then you worked in the independent hotels as well. Yeah. And when it comes to happiness, can you see whether there are some differences in the corporate and independent lives?
Well, the beauty I had in independent was that I was allowed to do what I wanted to do. So, and this is actually how my book came about, because I was allowed to test and try all the things that I've been learning and all the theories I've studied. I think the big corporates are excellent schools to learn a lot of the basics and the fundamentals of hotels. I think it's much harder to implement different kinds of happiness tools in greater corporations. Just, if nothing else, because Hilton is such a large organization, and they have a lot of dinosaur managers that has been around for a very long time. When you run independent properties, and I hope most of the managers that worked with me would say the same thing, you have a flatter organization and you have more ability to impact. Which makes it easier
to make a change.
I think in larger organization it's much harder. I have spoken to a couple of senior people within some of the chains in order to try to help them how they could start initiating change, but it's a long process. And this is where I think Vienna House worked really well for me, because I interviewed the CEO for my book, and he said, this is definitely my philosophy, and would you like to join me?
Come and work with me.
To make sure that it is happening, because he thought this is really is happening, and I want you confirm this and work with me on improving it even more, because it's something of a smaller hotel chain, so it's a bit of a hybrid in between the large corporate chains and independent.
And can you see there is a change in Vienna House?
I would say I think when I came to Vienna House, I was quite surprised how positive they are, comparing to what I had heard 10 years ago when I came to Prague. I think the management we have now is very young, and that helps a lot. They actually came to the happiness conference before I joined the company and reached out to me. So there was a need and a willingness already, and that of course makes it a lot easier.
And I met last week when we had the first HospitaLidi snídaně, so we met two ladies from Vienna House, and they were both very lovely, so I guess it must be working.
One of them is new and the other one has been with the company for quite a while. Yes.
Oh cool, yeah, even better.
Yeah.
And my last question, what I also came across when I was doing my research, is that apparently some people, and my personal guess would be these will be the Tyrannosaurus rexes, it's really hard to pronounce.
T-Rex.
They may believe that when you are as a leader being really happy, that it can be perceived as you're less competent, or you're maybe a little bit naive.
Right.
Which can be quite threatening when you're a leader, especially if you're a young leader with not that much experience. So what would your advice to someone that maybe, and I think especially without generalizing, but yes, generalizing, especially to females, this can be something of a topic. So what would your advice to people like that be?
Before I answer the advice, I need to think about that for a second. I'd like to say that I'm very often told I'm naive. I have been told by many colleagues in the industry, not in my current hotel chain.
Me too.
But in the industry, I've been told many times that I'm naive. When I came to the Czech Republic, this is actually pretty cool. I came to Czech Republic 10 years ago, and I said, I believe in home office. I believe that you have to give the people, you have to show the people the trust, and then they will trust you, and everything will work. And a colleague in the industry here in Prague said to me, Monika, they're going to eat you alive. Well, I haven't been eaten yet alive. I've been laughed at by colleagues who don't work with me in other hotels. And this, honestly, I don't care about. And I sincerely hope that any manager out there don't care about what people say in other companies. I think within your own company, yes, there are people who is going to challenge you if you take a happy approach, but happiness is not about being a smiling clown. It's extremely important to make this statement. It's not running around, hey, it's so fun, everything, and yeah, high five. That's not what happiness at work is about. It's about a sincere feeling from within, treating people respectfully, being kind to the people that work for you. If you give them a work to do, don't do it for them. So let them to do it and be respectful over the work that other people are doing. And I think you can do this very seriously and very sincerely, especially if you're a younger person. It took me quite a while before I started using the word happiness at work. I'm more used, it's coming from my heart. And I very often touch my heart, because to me, this is what I'm doing. And I think if you lead by your heart, whether you're a young woman or a man, I think actually sometimes men find it harder to be a happiness leader because it's very emotional. And many of our young, or older as well, men have a challenge with showing emotions. So, where I think actually women have an advantage. So I would really lead from your heart, allow people the time. Don't push it onto people. I just had a question on my blog the other day that somebody asked me, but how do I do it when people don't want to be happy? As long as they're not toxic and they are ruining the workplace for other people, I would say leave them alone. Find a couple of people, and I think especially for women, we are not so good at networking always. We need to get better at networking, meaning find a couple of people in your organization that you feel are positive to what you want to do and get them on board, and then slowly start working it. And I think if you have a couple of people that are supporting your wish, your topic of happiness at work, or anything else for that matter, then you can slowly make a movement out of it.
Or you could come to the conference,
Or
right?
you can come to the conference on the 10th of October.
Okay, 10th of October, great. And I think that's it from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm gonna finish with the Dalai Lama, because he says that he believes that the very purpose of life of everyone is to be happy. So let's all of us be happy at work. It sounds such a cliche, but it's true.
Let's be happy in life.
Let's be happy in life.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. A díky vám všem a těším se zase někdy příště. Ahoj.